All right, ladies and gentlemen, traders, welcome back to another video. In this one, it's not just going to be a normal recap, but instead we're going to do a monthly recap. We're going to talk about our day trading performance here the last 3 months, especially here, really and truly, the last month, the month of March. Ladies and gentlemen, the month of March has been an absolute travesty here for me, an absolute disaster. My second biggest red month ever after going live. I've only had two red months really, and one or so, one or two where we were completely flat. This right here is going to be my second biggest red month. And as you guys can see, to start the month, 3 red days. Coming into week 2, 3 red days. Coming into end the month, 4 red days in a row. Not able to build any sort of good momentum. The last week here, coming in on the 24th, 25th, felt pretty good. Building some traction, 2 good days of trading, and then boom, the 26th comes around and we get absolutely punched in the mouth. Now, it is important to mention that there are some things that we have been doing differently. We have been taking less trades. We've been trying to focus a little bit more on bigger picture. So there's been some adjustments. We haven't purely been scalping. I mean, not even really. For the first 2 weeks, you guys will see there's only one day where I broke over. Well, 2 days, maybe a little more. Only a few days really where we broke over 100 trades. Primarily, if we're to like compare this to other weeks and months, you guys will notice that we've had a lot more trades, in a lot of these other months, right? A lot more trades, a lot more days where we're around, 260 trades, for example, on this particular day. And, back in the end of the year, especially. So, there's definitely some things when it comes to adjustments, trying to make some changes, trying to do things a little bit more differently. You guys will see here again, a lot of days over 100 trades, almost every day actually here. So yeah, there's been some adjustments, there's been some changes, and we were trying to make a leap forward, right? And I understood that this might be part of what it might take to help myself get to the next level. And I'm fine with this, and I'm fine with this for another month. I'm only fine with this for 2 months. And the reason why I say that is because I understand the adjustment that I'm trying to make, and I'm giving myself a time horizon. If I was in a situation where I'm trying to adjust and I'm not quite sure or pinpointing what I need to do differently, then I'd give myself, an infinite amount of time to catch on what I need to do. But being that I understand the assignment, I understand the mission, I know a lot of the things that I'm doing incorrectly, I'm giving myself one more month to see if I can truly make this adjustment to getting in on some of the bigger picture trades and holding a little bit longer. Now, the reason why my trades are down really is because I haven't been scalping the highs as much as I normally would on a regular month, right? And a big part of what I'm doing here in trying to look for bigger picture patterns and hold longer is understanding supply and demand zones and understanding where the stock is just not as strong, you know, for entries, right? Again, typically the higher up, the less likely you want to hold a trade because we're already breaking into new highs. But if we're in a little lower in a supply zone, pullback entry, usually there is where you can definitely hold a little longer and experience that bigger reward, that bigger trade. Now, what's gotten me on a lot of days has been fear. There's been so many days where I've gotten a good technical grip on what the setup is, but on the other side of that, not following through with the plan and the execution, and that throwing off my profit to loss, my risk to reward ratio. A lot of times I'm getting back out right away, or I'm getting out too soon, not really giving the trade the chance to capitulate, as they say. So, when we look at the raw numbers here, you guys will see on average we're down 91 bucks per day. So these are the metrics of a red day, right? A red month, right? So total loss of over 2K, and actually let's include the fees here. So a total loss of over 3K, a loss of 157 per day, average trade gain slash loss 219, biggest winner 2100, biggest loss 3500. Our biggest loss came in a trade where we had out some limit orders and got caught in a flush. Since then, we have made some adjustments in terms of how we want to place orders going out. Now, you guys will have noticed that I haven't put out orders in the last few days, and a lot of that is because I haven't been seeing what I wanted to see to just have orders sitting in a consolidation. Today, for example, if we're to pull up our 2 or 3 hot stocks, MLGO is one of those. We'll come back to this one. MYSZ, we pulled this one up a little late, but as we get here, we're somewhat on the tail end of the move, and there's no real or prolonged consolidation. We had this small, consolidation here, but again, coming to the stock a little late, it's a little bit of a different story because you're just not quite acquainted. You're not quite sure of the range, but again, that threw us off a little bit in this area here, which I thought was probably the only A quality setup that I've seen all day. I had a bit of a technical view that caused me some issue. I'd say I'd call it a little bit of a tunnel vision. So after pulling back from the highs of 3, we had a low of 68, and I took 1,000 shares. It wasn't really a starter, but just to kind of get myself in the stock to gain the feel. And I think I fell victim to wanting to get in a little too specific in the price point, and so I was waiting below 70 to take 18,000 shares. That was my plan, but we never got back below 70 here, and I'm not sure why, but I assumed VWAP would be the low. And again, this is an assumption. It's basically where I would have had my stop, and I was hoping for a little bit more wicks and range down here in this bit of a gap to accumulate the position. But in the grand scheme of things, we don't need to be that tight. And the 1,000 share starter could have definitely been a starter with actual size, which would have been 6,000. And then I could have added twice or 3 more times down to then look for the red to green. So in the worst case scenario, I should have had at least 6,000 shares down here, which would have been a nice gain selling into the highs. And this is another part of the risk management and just trade management, is that not always we're going to get a new high, right? We had 304, right here we had 302, and maybe we could have thought this red candle here would have consolidated high and then kind of break out again, but that wasn't the case. So even from in here at full size, there's a lot of management that you have to do, understanding how to get out and when to get out so that you don't end up having the position back down to flat. But yeah, so this is one of the A quality setups that I've seen. I think over here could have been just as good if I was paying attention to the stock earlier. Coming like right into this green candle here, just a little, you got to take that minute or two to catch your bearings. By the time you do, that could be all it wrote, right, for that setup, and it might be already on the way. So yeah, these are the stats here. Not the best stats. You guys can see Monday, Tuesday, small green, and then Wednesday, Friday, we had some losses. Interestingly, Wednesday, the day where we had a little bit more trades. Usually whenever I'm red throughout my career is because my accuracy is just nowhere to be seen. My average red day and green day are essentially identical, which is never good. If we're looking at our profit loss, our risk to reward ratio, which should always be a 2 to 1 or higher, this will tell you guys, again, coming back to, so a lot of the things, whilst there are some technical issues, it's more mental, emotional, right? So we're getting into a lot of good setups where there might be a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 1, but because of the emotions we're fumbling and mismanaging the trades, which is leading to a smaller profit loss ratio even on the green days, right? Because even if the accuracy is, let's say, 40%, and we're aiming for a 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 4 to 1, 5 to 1, and even if I'm having more red days than green days, we would still be net green if I'm doing my job, mentally, aka emotionally, and technically when we are seeing the setups being strong. I mean, there were so many of them. There were so many times where I went into, so we have a small chat room with the team house members, eight, not a chat room, but like a group chat in the Discord with like 8 members, and every day I'm in there after the day's done, like, yep, today another day, we could have been up, everybody in here, no excuse, right? Including myself, no excuse. This should have been a 20K day. Because I'm seeing that if I can overcome the fear, it's there waiting for me with a big smile and a bow wrap. Right? So again, I'm gonna give myself another month because it's only different or wrong if I'm not seeing anything at all. But being that I'm seeing it, gotta keep working towards it, right? So that'll be the key. So yeah, here's some more of the numbers. If we get into let's see here, detailed, and then win-loss expectation. Here we go. So you guys will see that on the month, right? It's not that there wasn't any money on the month, and this is a month where I'm trading very low quantity, right, in terms of like actively scalping, and $100,000 still passed through the account, right? $100,000+ still passed through the account. So again, being better mentally, emotionally, being better technically, sticking to the plan, that will allow me to increase the numbers to the green side, and as a result also decrease the numbers to the losing side, giving me more of a positive ratio as we're retaining more of the gains on both sides in both aspects. So there's that. I think a lot of this stuff is just mental, and so this is one of our bigger drawdowns. And the key here for this type of drawdown is to bottom out, almost like a stock chart, bottom out, and then curl right back up. You get back to your all-time highs, and then new highs. And then you keep going, keep going. And so into April, that's the plan, right? But again, I think it's going to really come down to a day-to-day perspective. And something that I can also try to improve on is taking I think still, an issue for me at times can be taking every single trade that I see in terms of the active scalps. There is a bit of a conflict of interest, which I think I have to be careful with, which again, if I'm buying the stock low in a supply zone and I'm selling into strength, do I want to be buying the micros in those areas if that's where I would be typically selling if I have the massive size down below that I'm looking for? So there's also that's a little bit tricky, because then it it's almost like going long and short in a similar like range. Let's say at highs, maybe you're thinking, hey, this could reverse, versus on the other side, hey, if we maybe break over this flat top, this thing can make new highs, versus double, triple top, and then backside. All right, so there's like a very fine line as you're dancing, that you have to thread the needle properly, and I think that's been our biggest issue on the month. So in terms of the year, hasn't really been the best year. We had a pretty slow January, and then a pretty slow February as well, right? So this month, so we've been trending down in a sense here. And here's been the last 30 days maybe. Yeah, well, yeah, this year, so this is pretty much the last 30 days. So you guys will see our calendar a little choppy, right? Very choppy in here actually. Bigger move up, and then again a little bit more chop. So a lot of cash passing through the accounts. Only retaining 10% of the gains. It's not going to cut it. We definitely want to try to aim for a little bit higher. And again, that's going to come down to that mental side of things. So total fees, almost 5K. And then Largest gain. So we did have a pretty big winner on and this really and truly wasn't really a great trade from the lows. Oh, we're not getting, okay, here we go. It's down here. This one wasn't really a great trade from the lows per se, but somewhat of a breakout entry with a little bit more size. So you guys can see this one was a bull flag breakout. So, it's still not quite where I'm trying to be with the trades, but this was still a nice trade nevertheless. And honestly, opportunities like this come, I mean, just look at the stock like this, right? I mean, look, almost every green candle that was big, it's like you could have potentially been able to make this amount of money, right? So a lot of it has to do with the hold times as well, and some other factors. Let's see. What else are we missing anything else? So the largest loss again came from our limit order getting filled. No data here. Why? Anyhow, so we had out a limit order and the stock basically Titanic down. Win loss versus days. Again, we're pretty much 1-to-1. Typically, we're 6 to 7 out of every 10 days green. So this hasn't really been great. Our daily gain on our green days, our average on our green days has still been fairly good, but we've had a lot of red days here. 27, so 31 to 27, right? And as crazy as the metrics are, we're up $40,000. So if we go to I believe it's reports, and then calendar, is it calendar? No, reports. I always forget how to get to this this, okay, it's right here. Year, day, month. Okay, let's erase this. And then let's look at the performance by year. So from when I first started in 2020 and then 2021, so forth, so forth, so forth, right? Here's the gains, right? And my number of trades have also increased, right? But yeah, so I'm up 40 grand, which for me, it feels like nothing. It's what it feels like. It feels like nothing. That's what it feels like. I'll just say it how it is. Um, but to have some perspective, just 3-4 years ago, it was like a solid year at this point when I was now, getting into the thick of things. So I don't want to lose perspective. I know some people out there may still be making, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80K a year, whatever it might be. And so some people might be watching and they might say, well, hey, RT, hey, I make 95K a year. I'm living a good life. You're already up 40K in the first 2-3 months. This is not bad. And while I understand that perspective, in my mind, things are very grand. Things are very, I can't remember the word, but yeah, things are very, 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 let's just use grand again. My vocabulary here is not too grand in this moment. But yeah, so and beyond my imagination, beyond my expectations, a lot more of it is what I'm seeing is available in the charts if you can truly master yourself. I think that's the biggest thing. It's different if we know the ceiling is right there. If the ceiling is $1,000, $5,000 a day, the ceiling is tight. It'd be a different story because then we would know, hey, once you get up there, that's the limit. But as far as I'm seeing, there are no limits, and there have been days. In fact, there's been countless days already this year where we could have made over 40 grand in one day. Countless days, countless opportunities where our performance to this point on the year could have been one single day. And that's the real motivation for me in trying to adjust and make some changes. But, my desire for success has to be greater than my fear of failing. I think that's the biggest thing for me. And I'm still on this tightrope walk. And sometimes I'm losing the fight. to fear, losing the battle. So, what it means to be courageous is acting despite feeling fear. And, if not me, who? If not now, when? To be courageous is to still take the correct course of action despite feeling fearful. Being able to act under pressure. Being the sniper in the military who their heart is racing, but they still take a deep breath and they nail the shot. The Olympic runners before before the sound off, before the race. Right? There might still be nerves, but at the end of the day, you have to follow through and put into practice or apply what you've learned in practice real time, right? Take the strides, your first 10 yards, your first 25 yards, getting into your sprint. And so I think for me, I have to continue to apply what I've been learning and continue to apply what I've been learning in my study sessions. And I have to do it despite feeling fear. And, man, the day will come. The day will come where these numbers here, in comparison to the numbers that we will see, these numbers here will look, like a 2-story apartment building, 2-story, 3-story apartment building, to the Eiffel Tower, to the Burj Khalifa, to the World Trade Center that is to come, to the ladder to space as we go on to the monitors up above. So I think staying to course, being patient, making the necessary adjustments as we see fit as we go, studying every day, that's what's going to get me to that better risk to reward, profit loss ratio, and ultimately more consistency, that better self. Because that's what it comes down to. Being a better self. Less hesitation, more confidence, more direction, right? More purpose behind the trades, less fear, less fidgeting, less fumbling, and more calm. So that's been the month so far, that's been the year, and this is what we're looking to improve on to then get even better. So hit that thumbs up. Hope you guys appreciate the transparency as always, because as you guys know, this is a journey from start to end. From start to end. From 2020 to then, when we first started 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and so forth, and so forth, and so forth, and so forth. So definitely hit that thumbs up. And tomorrow again. All right, stay safe, stay green. I'll catch you guys in the next one.